is I, Finchchats, the worst UFC predictor in the YouTube space, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you my exact predictions for how I think every fight in the card is going to play out. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. As always, I like to look at my past week's performance to see what we can improve upon, and I think it's well known now. You're looking at the worst prediction of all time. It's actually funny because, actually, hold on, I'll be right back. Like I was saying, it's actually funny that I got two correct because Chepe, I kind of wanted to pick Ricardo Ramos. That would have been funny. And then Mario Pinto, like Austin Lane won the first round, so I could have went 1 of 10 here. That would have been comedy. Now, do you want me to go through every one of these wrong picks? I'm clearly a dunce. I don't know what I'm looking at. I analyzed tape. You don't understand how much time I'm putting into this. And this is the result. Let's get into the picks. First fight of the night is Chris Gutierrez taking on John Castaneda. This fight has had wicked line movement. I believe Gutierrez opened up as a plus 200 underdog. Then he was like minus 200 favorite. Now the fight is like at even money. No one knows what's really going to happen in this fight. It's short notice for both guys. Castaneda was supposed to fight Douglas Silva de Andrade last week, and then Andrade pulled out, so now he's fighting Chris Gutierrez. If we're going to break down the styles, they're both heavy leg kickers, but Castaneda does have a little wrestling in his back pocket. I just think Gutierrez is on a different level than Castaneda. Gutierrez has fought the way better competition, and his losses are really only to the way better competition. I do not think Castaneda is top 15 level. And I think Gutierrez might be sneaking there. I think he's going to overpower him with leg kicks. I think it's going to be a leg kick battle back and forth. Castaneda might sneak in some takedown threats, but ultimately Gutierrez is better at winning decisions than Castaneda. Castaneda, I think, has 5 losses via decision, and Gutierrez has a lot of wins via decision. So that should be enough, all right? I'm terrible at picks. Here's the first one, all right? Fade it. Fade it. I dare you. Fade it. Go ahead. Bet Castaneda. Do it. Next fight on the card, we have Ozzy Diaz taking on Jordan Santos, and I'm taking the underdog shot here. I'm going with Ozzy Diaz. Back-to-back fights, I'm taking the underdog. I don't care. Does it matter? Do you guys know who either of these guys are? I mean, Jordan Santos, he had a pretty good performance on the Contender Series, but if you look back at his tape, he's not really a knockout guy. He's chasing the takedown. He doesn't throw with a lot of volume, and that can easily get him in trouble in a UFC environment. Now, Ozzy Diaz, he might not be UFC level per se, but I do like his regional performances better than Jordan. Okay, so Ozzy Diaz actually fought LFA, won the LFA championship, and his recent 2 losses you see are against UFC guys, Ming Ying Zhang and Joe Pyfer. Now, I don't think Jordan Santos is on either of those guys' levels, and Jordan Santos is going to probably gas himself out by chasing takedowns. That won't work. I understand it's a 7-year age gap, but at the middleweight division, that might not be the worst thing. And Ozzy's not 35, so he's 34. He's turned 35 in 9 months. So if this fight took place 9 months from now, maybe I would sing a different tune. But we're taking Ozzy Diaz, back-to-back underdogs. Let's get it. Next fight on the card, we have Mairon Santos taking on Francis Marshall. And now, at this point in the video, you might be saying to yourself, oh, this is why this guy sucks at picks, because he's just picking the underdog in every fight. Well, I'll stop you right there. I think there's a lot to like about Francis Marshall. His only 2 losses are to William Gomi by a split, which is very hard to beat William Gomi by decision. And then Isaac Dalgarian just took him down and smashed him. Now, Mairon Santos is not doing either of those things. Mairon Santos is going to try to knock out Francis Marshall on the feet. Francis Marshall has the wrestling in his back pocket that he can go to. Francis Marshall has knockout power, knockdown power that he can go to. So I'm not really sure what the line is here. I think the line is like this because of the hype around Mairon Santos. He just got a crazy KO against Con Ofley. I think Francis Marshall is way better than Con Ofley, and the betting line back then was like minus 150 for Mairon Santos. So not really sure why Francis Marshall is plus 300. He has a great chance to win this fight, and he's 25 years old. It's not like he's 35 years old. He's a prospect himself, prospect on prospect violence. I faded Mairon in his last fight, and you know what? Against a better competition, I'm going to fade him again. Give me Francis Marshall by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Alex Morono taking on Carlos Leal. Not sure why this fight is even a thing. I think they're just trying to get Carlos Leal a highlight win. I mean, Alex Morono has looked like a bag of milk every time he steps into the octagon recently. You cannot trust this man at all. He lost to D-Rod by split, which, I mean, you know, D-Rod definitely won that fight. Nico Price, he lost by unanimous decision. Nico Price piecing him up on the feet and utilizing takedowns. Horrific look. Against Court McGee, I actually bet Court McGee in that fight, and Morono snuck out a 29-28 decision victory. Against Carlos Leal, who took Renat Fakhretdinov to the brink. And Carlos Leal potentially has, you know what I'm saying? So, and Carlos Leal has cool PFL experience. You know, he's not terrible. He looked pretty good against Renat. Don't pick Alex Morono, all right? Even if I'm not picking him, no one should be picking him. So, Carlos Leal by KO. I guess it's a lock. I don't know. I guess it's a lock. I don't know. Next fight on the card, we have Bruno Ferreira taking on Armen Petrosyan. Now, yes, we have another underdog selection. This is why I'm so bad. I just can't help myself. A dog looks like they're likely to win. I'm going to take them, all right? Armen Petrosyan, back-to-back finish losses, just came off a horrific KO loss to Shara Bullet. And the reasoning behind picking Petrosyan is because, you know, he's taller. He's 6'3" compared to Bruno's 5'10". But the reach is in Bruno's favor. And then another reason I see people picking Armen is because, you know, potentially he has wrestling and takedowns in his arsenal. But guess what? He's only landed one takedown in his entire UFC run, which I think spans 5+ fights. So if Armen Petrosyan didn't try to take Shara Bullet down, I doubt he's going to try to take Bruno Ferreira down. And if this is a standing battle, that plays right into Bruno's cards, and I think Bruno is going to land a knockout blow. Now, Petrosyan, he's a decision merchant, I believe. Yeah, his only 2 wins in the UFC are by decision. And I think Bruno Ferreira needs to either get grappled to a loss or he needs to get KO'd himself. I don't think Petrosyan possesses either of those capabilities. I must be missing something fundamentally because the line shifted. Bruno Ferreira was a favorite. Now he's an underdog. And I seem to be agreeing with the Tabology voters. I guess I'm missing something. I don't know what I'm missing. I guess we'll find out this Saturday, but the pick is Bruno Ferreira, round 1, a KO. Next fight on the card, we have Rei Tsuruya taking on Joshua Van, and I'm just simply not picking Rei Tsuruya because he has yet to land more than 20 significant strikes in a fight. Every single fight, it's just 15-minute grapple fest. Now, Josh Van has been working on his takedown defense. He landed 100+ significant strikes against Cody Diorden, and Cody Diorden is a similar type to Rei Tsuruya. Maybe Rei Tsuruya is a little more aggressive with the grappling. But here's what I think. If Rei Tsuruya gets like 3+ minutes of control time every round, and that's it, he will lose. Joshua Van is just going to piece him up on the feet and deter him from taking takedowns, from going for takedowns to the point where Joshua Van could low-key make a late-round finish. Joshua Van has great hands. That Charles Johnson loss is a pretty big stain on his career, but I'm going to chalk that up to UFC being in Denver. I was in Denver recently, and that air is crazy. I went to a bounce house. I was gassed out. I can understand why Josh Van lost that fight. He was probably gassed, and it was round 3 against the cardio god, Charles Johnson. So, Rei Tsuruya is not going to land any damage. He needs to get the submission to win, I believe, and I just don't think Joshua Van's going to get submitted. So, Joshua Van by decision it is. Next fight on the card, we have Curtis Blaydes taking on Rizvan Kuniev. Now, I think both of these guys striking, they kind of cancel each other out. And I think Kuniev, he might try to go for takedowns, and that's not going to work because, Blaydes fought Almeida, and then he basically destroyed Almeida in round 2 after the takedown stopped working. So, I refuse to pick someone who's making their UFC debut against a well-established top 5 contender of the division. That's basically the whole breakdown. Kuniev is going to have to prove something to me in this fight for me to pick him in the future. But he has smaller reach. He's only younger by 3 years. Curtis Blaydes did get destroyed by Tom Aspinall in his last fight, so that was a pretty bad look. But I don't think Kuniev has the Tom Aspinall power. I think every time like a random heavyweight is good in the regional scene, the UFC tries to push him as fast as possible because the division is lacking. And this is their attempt at pushing this guy. Rizvan Kuniev, he's from Dagestan. Makes sense to push him. But I won't be pushing him. Give me Curtis Blaydes by a decision. I guess maybe he just like pieces him up. Just pieces him up at range. Maybe he even shoots his own takedowns. I feel like Kuniev's going to gas out. So Blaydes by decision. Now before I get into the main card picks, it's kind of redundant, but Let's go over last week's bets, shall we? We have 4 bets, all lost. All right, you happy? I went over it. All right. Can we move on now? Asu Amabayev just doesn't shoot takedowns anymore. Lucas Almeida robbed, loses a split decision, 3 units down the drain on a great line. Andre Lee never stood a chance. And then Charles Johnson, close decision, and then you lose 3 units. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Just a bad event. Just what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Next fight on the card, we have Bobby Green taking on Mauricio Ruffy, and in this one, I just think Bobby Green has taken way too much damage. He is on his way out. I understand why people are taking Bobby Green. The reason by taking Bobby Green is because, you know, Ruffy did show some weakness against James Yontop in their last fight. But the difference between Yontop and Green is that Yontop, I think, has way more durability than Bobby Green. I think if you replace Yontop and Bobby Green in that fight, I think Bobby Green gets knocked out by any of those flurries that Ruffy was throwing. The no-look hook, the scissor kick. You know, there's a lot of things in this guy's arsenal that make him fun to watch. But at minus 600, it's kind of tough to bet him. Maybe you can bet him by KO. That is like even money, plus 100. I just think Bobby Green's chin is gone, and that's the entire breakdown. You know, a lot of people are picking him because he has the UFC experience edge. Well, he's opening the main card, and last time that happened, he got finished in the first round by Paddy Pimblett. So here's another prospect that's going to finish him, Mauricio Ruffy, by round 2 KO. Next fight on the card, we have Amanda Lemos taking on Iasmin Lucindo. Now, right off the bat, the thing that jumps off the page to me is the age. Lemos is 37, Iasmin is 23. 14-year age gap. Granted, in her last 2 fights, Iasmin has had a 10-plus year age difference. She fought Marina Rodriguez, and that was a 10-plus year age. She fought Karolina Kowalkiewicz, which was also a 10-plus year age gap. So, and she's winning those fights. Even though they're very close split decisions, the thing that Iasmin does that separates is she actually goes for takedowns. She actually successfully completes takedowns, and she actually accumulates control time. In women's MMA, that is huge because there's not really a lot of damage being thrown both ways. So if you can sneak in a takedown and get like, you know, a minute and a half of control time, you will win that round. And I think in this fight, that is exactly what's going to happen. Lemos, I think, needs to KO Iasmin to win, which I don't see happening. On the striking, it's very similar. They both have heavy hands. Iasmin just has takedowns. And Lemos' recent losses are just her being controlled in the ground. Verna Jandiroba was a 2-round fight, and Lemos landed, I think, 2 significant strikes. You know? Weili Zhang controlled her for 5 rounds. Just takedown after takedown after takedown. So if Iasmin can just throw in a couple takedowns, I think she wins. And it's a 14-year age gap. So Iasmin Lucindo by decision. Next fight on the card, we have Jalin Turner taking on Ignacio Bahamondes. And in this one, I'm fading Ignacio. All right. You know, in his last fight against Manuel Torres, he did look like a god. But he had a supreme reach advantage, supreme height advantage. He had all the advantages. He even had the takedown advantage. Manuel Torres doesn't shoot for takedowns. Manuel Torres wants to enter the pocket and throw. Now, against a guy like Ignacio, that might not work because Ignacio had a very long reach against him. Now, against a guy like Jalin Turner himself is huge for the lightweight division. And what has won Ignacio fights in the past, I do not think will win him the fight here. His reach and his length is usually what wins him the fight. His leg kicks, his ability to mix in all types of strikes. I don't think he will be able to utilize such success against a guy like Jalin Turner. I think Jalin Turner is going to finish this guy, actually. I think he's going to actually finish this guy. I'm going to put round 2 KO. Ignacio Bahamondes, one thing about him, he's very similar to Mauricio Ruffy in the fact that he lands as much as he throws. He lands as much as he gets hit. So Jalin Turner is a little more defensively sound. Granted, Jalin Turner is a quote-unquote, you know, I don't want to say quitter, but he does tend to gas out if he doesn't win early. That's happened against Dan Hooker. That's happened against Moicano. That's happened against Gamrot. You know, he just gasses out as the fight goes on. But the difference is Ignacio doesn't really have takedowns in his arsenal. All those guys I mentioned shoot takedowns. Ignacio, yeah, he's been training with Bilal, but he's mainly a kickboxer at heart. So if Ignacio's not shooting takedowns, this is a standing battle. I think Jalin eventually finds the chin. We've seen Ignacio completely cooked. Even Roosevelt Roberts took him to the limit. So for those reasons, Here's more fade material. I'm taking Jalin Turner around 2 KO. That brings us to the co-main event of the evening. We have Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev in a rematch. And it's funny because the last time... Oh, never mind. I was going to say the last time Fiziev fought was against Gaethje, but I forgot that he actually suffered that leg injury against Gamrot in a fight where it looked like it was trending in his direction. I'm not falling for the trap. The trap is to take Gaethje. Gaethje's an underdog. Oh my god, take Gaethje. You know what? I'm going to avoid the trap. But by me avoiding the trap, I think I'm actually falling into an even bigger trap. Fiziev hasn't fought in over a year, and it's because of a leg injury, which is horrible for someone who's mainly a striker. You need power in your legs to throw a powerful strike. But the thing is, Gaethje just got completely cooked by Max Holloway. He took so much damage that I think he's not able to come back from it. Gaethje doesn't have takedowns really in his arsenal, neither does Fiziev. If this plays out similarly to their last fight, I think Fiziev actually will come up with the upper hand. He was starting to land on Gaethje a little bit towards the end of that fight. And, yeah, I'm just not falling for the trap. But then again, I probably am. Oh, in hindsight, it's going to be like, oh my god, how did you not take Gaethje at underdog money? I mean, I'm an idiot. Only 35% of people are taking Fiziev, but yet he's now a minus 150 when he was plus 150 at open. So I'm missing something. But I'm going to take Fiziev by decision. I think he just outlands and outpowers Gaethje and avoids the big shots because Gaethje might be slower now. So, Fiziev by decision. And that brings us to the main event of the evening. We have Alex Pereira taking on Magomed Ankalaev. And I really don't want to pick Pereira because I feel like I'm going to mush him. I feel like me picking Pereira is going to result in him being mushed, him being taken down, him being just wrestle smashed on the ground. The thing is, I think Alex Pereira has beautiful leg kicks, beautiful calf kicks, and Magomed Ankalaev clearly struggled with that against someone who actually tried to kick him in the legs, which was Jan Blachowicz. I think if Magomed fought Rakic, we would have a better understanding of his game. Yes, he fought Rakic 4 months ago, and in that fight, it was very, very Rakic-y, very boring. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Alex Pereira can make a boring fight happen. I think he's going to bring the fight to Magomed no matter what. Magomed's going to have to shoot takedowns to win, in my opinion. And if you look at his recent fight history, he's not really shooting for takedowns. He's actually knocking people down on the feet. He's knocking people out on the feet. It is a little scary. He's also been due for this title shot for ages. UFC keeps like ducking him, avoiding him. They did give him a title shot and went to a split draw against Blachowicz. And he's only won since then. So this is a completely biased pick, completely biased prediction. And it will most likely be a completely biased bet. At this point, I'm Finn's Chats. I'm a mush. You're not watching this because you're going to follow me. You're watching this because you're going to fade me most likely. So I really don't want to pick Pereira because he's just going to lose if I do that. So Pereira knocks him out. I don't really think a decision is happening unless Magomed wins. I don't see Magomed actually finding a finish at all. I don't think he can. I don't think he can. I think Pereira's BJJ might actually be better than Magomed. Magomed doesn't really go for submissions. He more like tries to tie you up and punch you in the face on the ground. Alex Pereira is pretty big for light heavyweight. I'm going to take Alex Pereira by a late KO, similar to Roundtree, round 4. Let's get it. In Chama we trust. Thank you for watching another episode of Finn's Chats. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments who your favorite underdog is this weekend. I clearly cannot choose one. I have a lot of underdogs picked on this card, though. I will say that. And there are a lot of evenly close fights. So, should be a banger card. And have a great rest of your day, you savage.